The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and without him not one thing came into being. What has come into being in him was life, and the life was the light of the human race. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. The true light, which enlightens everyone, was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world came into being through him, yet the world did not know him. He came to what was his own, and his own people did not accept him. But to all who received him, who believed in his name, he gave power to become children of God, who were born not of blood, or of the will of the flesh, or of the will of man, but of God. And the Word became flesh and lived among us, and we have seen his glory, the glory as of a Father's only begotten Son, full of grace and truth. The Gospel of the Lord. From the dawn of time, the beginnings of the human race, our ancestors told stories about the least, the smallest among us, becoming great. Stories of athletes who came from the poorest communities, the underdogs. Stories of shepherds who became prophets, governors, and kings. Stories of demigods among us, those who were forgotten, some shunned, but came from a special upbringing, who would find victory against the gods. These stories would grow and develop in our modern age. For instance, a mechanic, a farmer, and a scavenger from the desert who found a special connection to a great power and departed on a hero's journey to save or conquer the galaxy. Or a young but brilliant young man who was teased in high school, who got bit by a radioactive spider, who decides to use a newfound power selflessly and at great cost. Or a young woman who learns of her family's great heritage, a newfound power, something that becomes clear when she is gifted a special bracer to wear. Back in 1960, Archbishop Fulton Sheen decided to focus his Christmas message on the comic book hero Superman, a man from another planet, from somewhere else, a seemingly ordinary man who puts on an extraordinary form. He does wonders with the power he's been given, saving those who are powerless, in danger, and in need. Archbishop Sheen wondered why these programs and stories were so popular. He said that we know that the help that we need is not just among us ordinary mortals. If we are to have the inner strength that we need to deal with the affairs of ordinary life, that has to come from outside. From the point of imagination, these stories help us to meet that need. But on a deeper and spiritual level, Superman is the desire for Christmas. Just as Superman flies into action faster than a bullet, faster than a speeding train, and breaking through any barriers, God breaks through time and space to be with us. But there's a difference between the two. Superman and all those other fabled stories from movies, comic books, and legends, they go from weakness to power. But God goes from power to weakness. Just look at the nativity scene. Archbishop Sheen tells us, here is infinity and littleness. This isn't a man getting strong. This is a God becoming weak. He who made the worlds, even getting rejected by it. The tiny little hands that are not even long enough to touch the cattle are the same hands that hold the reins that steered the stars and the sun in their courses. He is wrapped in swaddling bands divinity enclosed, wrapped, confined, cribbed, helpless as a babe. The Gospel of John that we hear today brings us to the height of eternity, to stand there with our Lord, so we can gain a dizzying sense of how far down God's love comes to be with us here on earth, how far he came down to make himself known and loved. Since he already entered into the world as one of us, you don't need to be a superhero to be accepted, loved, and known by him, nor do you need to be perfect with superheroic virtue. Jesus arrives so small so that he can be with you, even in those moments when you too are at your smallest. The Christmas season can bring about feelings of grief, loneliness, and stress, especially when we have a big storm. But God breaks into those moments, no matter what the circumstances, to bring us hope. You're not too little for him. So at this time, we'll continue our Mass, where Jesus will enter the manger of our bodies and souls in the little form of bread, a bread that will truly become his immense glory in the Eucharist. This divine gift was given to us so that we can be instilled with his superheroic grace to continue Jesus' mission to save the world.